ladies, pleased to see you here this morning. And our topic today is all about those terrible style mistakes that men make. They say that clothes maketh the man. Talking about men, they are really open to advice, or most of them are.
I did a workshop for men yesterday, and I had 11 guys on it yesterday. And what was really interesting was they don't know what they don't know. So they think they got it all covered. They think they're doing it all right. And then the minute you start to talk to them about what are the messages you want to send out, then how can we put that in how they dress? And, oh, you've got them.
Mm.
They absolutely love it. And as I said to them, they said, there's a lot more to this. And I said exactly what you said before, Evelyn. I said, it used to be easy for you guys. If you're going for a job interview, easy because you put on your suit, your shirt, your tie, and off you go. Clean your shoes and off you go. But now, maybe not so much. You know, maybe you've got to have put a bit more thought into it, because not every job interview you're going to wear a tie for.
That's right.
To get that message across. So how are you going to do it? You know. So yeah, they were like, "Oh, I hadn't thought of that," and it was very interesting. I said, "Now, welcome to our world. This is what we have to do." So
I find that men, they want to improve what they're doing, or they want some feedback on what they're already doing. To get the advice of a woman is really valued by them. Most often they want to be attractive to women. You can't spend too much time on the detail, that there are specific things. Now that they've got choices, there are things that we do have to take more notice of, because they've got more choices, more things to get wrong. The trend at the moment are fun socks, right? Now, I love fun socks, but they do send out a message. It depends on the environment. You know, if you're in merchant banking, or you're in any area where, you know, you're taking care of someone's investments and money, it depends on the fun sock. Now, if you're going to have Goofy blowing a bugle on your socks, I mean, I'm probably going to say, well, look, just take it a bit easier. You know, maybe go as far as Argyle, really fun coloured Argyle socks. But I'm not sure if the Mickey Mouse, Donald Duck, Goofy socks might cut it in that particular environment. But it always depends on where they're working. You know, if they're in a creative field, it's a lot more relaxed. Maybe they can do that. And I'd love your thoughts on this. Acceptable.
So, I think if some men, they are working in a traditional environment and they have to wear their suit, but they got a creative and fun mind, and they want to play with that. So we can advise them as use the fun socks, but all organization, they've got a Friday free or Friday casual, so they can wear the fun socks in there, but as you said, not Mickey Mouse.
So I think it's really interesting, and there was a bit of a debate or discussion on Facebook recently about this issue, about men wearing colourful or you know, quirky socks. And one of the people put forward as an example of that was Justin Trudeau, so Canadian Prime Minister. So there's an example of, you know, you would think has to be super conservative, you know, leader of a major country, you know, meeting with high-powered people all the time. But part of his signature style is the fun socks, and, you know, beautifully dressed, beautiful suit, you know, nicely cut hair, shaved, you know, perfectly groomed otherwise, but the quirky socks. And I love the fact that that fits with his personality as well. So he's using that as a way, as Niku was just saying, you know, he's got a creative, quirky, fun personality, and that's his way of bringing that through while not detracting from his message. Okay, he's not wearing Disney character socks, he's wearing coloured socks with, you know, some patterns, but still not just your basic navy, black, grey, etc. So I think it absolutely can be done if you're in a high-powered role. And that is part of your personality. You do have to obviously have the personality to carry that off. I think if you're a, you know, shy, retiring, brown cardigan kind of comb over type guy, then maybe the fun socks send a different message. But I think it definitely can be done. Situation appropriate, personality appropriate.
I have never heard of young girls, young ladies, that they liked fun socks on guys. Never. They said, okay, I look at their socks first and then, oh my God. That was the reaction. So, and I asked, what sort of a sock you want? A normal. And what is normal? So that was the end of the conversation. That's the only thing, socks, where men can be creative and individual. So that's how they show who they are. Otherwise, what they put on, it's either traditional or just average.
Love fun socks. I really do. And as Emma said, look, it depends. You know, if they're going to be the cartoon characters, maybe not. If you're in a really high profile position, I can't imagine Justin Trudeau wearing goofy socks, but you're right. Look, color is really great. But I did come across a guy that was in some sort of investment accounting, and he had fun socks on. And on those fun socks, there were dollars and coins and things like that. And I thought that was really fun. So you know what, it depends. It depends on the environment, the personality, the situation, all of that. So I would just say, just err on the side of being a little bit more mindful about, you know, just how cartoony they're going to be.
I just had that conversation with the guys yesterday on the Zoom call, and that's exactly what we talked about was fun socks. And I said to them, they can be playful and fun, but what are your words? What's that message you want to send out? And you've got to still make sure that they can be playful and fun and colourful, so long as you're sticking to that message that you want to send out.
Excellent, yeah.
Going off message.
Belts and shoes matching. It depends again. You know, if they're going to be traditional shoes and traditional belt, then they do need to match. But on the other hand, when you've got dress jeans and a really lovely jacket, there may be some boots or some really smart shoes, sometimes the belt can pick up the colour of the pants and almost disappear.
I'm happy. I say the same things. I think that's like women. We say so long as it goes overall with the whole outfit, it's okay. You don't want it to be making a belt to be making probably a statement on its own or jumping off. But if it's not glaring, yeah.
So I think a navy belt, if you're wearing denim jeans, so a navy plaited belt looks really good. And if they're wearing, you know, the trend at the moment is for joggers or those quite casual dressy shoes. So I think that works. And it depends, I suppose, on the proportion of the man or woman. You know, if you want your legs to be longer or all the different rules that go with it. So it is good to match the belt or not have a break. And yeah, so I think, yes, it does work if you have a different belt. But however, I do like, you know, a brown belt with brown shoes or a black belt with black shoes. But I guess more casually, you can mix it up a little bit to have a better flow, and particularly with jeans and those casual jogger look.
When it's done well, they can mismatch. They don't have to match, but there is something that actually works with it regarding colour.
I think there's also a further point around, to Suzanne's point around messages that you're sending. So, for example, I would be cautioning a male client, even if he did have a creative job and a fun personality and so on, to make a statement out of a belt, for example, you know, so a big belt buckle or a belt design. The reason being is, do you really, really want to be drawing the eye to that part of your anatomy, given the sensitivity around Me Too and, you know, everything's so politically correct? Even if you are that fun person, as long as there's harmony or there's a counterpoint for the attention to go to, I would say that's fine. But if you're just making a statement with that, I think that sends a very arrogant message and a very tone-deaf message that is basically saying, you know, look at me, look here, You know, so I would be questioning that if I opened a client's wardrobe and he had all these really statement belts, I would be saying to him, you know, tell me what you're looking at here. So back to the message that you're trying to send.
I worked 20 years in Mossman. In Mossman, I watched men how they dressed. They dressed absolutely down, casually, but the statement, what you said, Emma, look at me, how expensive and good quality my shoes and belts are. So they just put these two things on and people said, so it's not that. If they wore tongs and nothing, let's say no belts, it could have send out a different message.
That weekend Mossman dressing is just different, isn't it? It's a very elegant, well put together, and it's the shoes and the belt that really just, because it is a difference to everything else. The majority of the fabrics they're using on their bodies, it's going to be the shoes and the belt that's going to be that whole different focus, you know, if there's going to be a change of fabric at all. So yeah, beautiful. Okay, so anything else on belts? I agree absolutely with Emma regarding the big statement belts with the, you know, the great big buffalo horns on the front or whatever. It certainly says, well, yeah, I'm a bit of a cowboy and I might act like one, but you know, anyway, it's all about messaging, whether it's
the big tummy, the beer tummy, and the belt. Oh, no, that is.
Well,
that is something.
This is where that shirt that, you know, some guys love to tuck in very thoroughly. You swear that they have been tucked into the underpants underneath the pants as well. So they're absolutely stretched over every square inch of their, you know, stomachs. This is where it's really necessary to pull out some of the shirt and blues on it a little bit so we don't see every tiny little ripple. And that leads me to jackets as well. You know, they've just got to be so well fitted. But I'm thinking of the guys that you often see, and I see it a lot. You know, when they're standing up and they want to look smart, they do all the buttons up of their jackets, and you know they really need to leave the bottom button undone. It's tradition, and the same with waistcoats. Whether if they're wearing a waistcoat, the bottom button needs to be left undone. Does anyone know where that comes from? Is it because we don't want them to look too stitched up?
King Edward VII. And when he was the Prince of Wales, and suits were becoming in vogue, he got put on too many pounds for his waistcoat and his jacket, so he stopped buttoning the bottom button.
He was the Duke of Windsor. He was quite a fashion plate, actually, or at least he was quite a trendsetter in the court, from high collars to bow ties. I mean, they tend to follow him, which was quite interesting. What about the break on pants? Who do you think can wear a double break? Because they're not as popular now, you know, having a double break in suit pants, but if anyone could wear them, what type of man would that be? What sort of physique? Yeah, very tall man. Whether he's, you know, an average size, a little bit bigger or slim, he's the only one that can get away with a double break. What do you think about quite a short man? Because there is a half break as well. Just enough to hit the top of the shoe, but without making a significant break. I didn't know this, but there's also a quarter break. Where would you think a quarter break would work? I was really surprised. I read up on it. I thought it was quite interesting as soon as I heard about it. And it's usually used with fabrics that are a little bit thicker, like cotton chino. And that would be just a quarter break, because you certainly don't want much of a break with chinos because they just sort of buckle up around the ankles. Yeah, so any thoughts about that?
Can be, Evelyn, that's a quarter break. Can be just like as a fashion. The men, young men, we're wearing the really fashionable suit, like Italian suit. They prefer to not having a break or have a quarter break. Right. Or if they just want to show their socks as they funny socks again.
Well, that's an interesting one because actually one of my favourite stores in Sydney, and they've now gone, it was Vince Maloney. I don't know if anyone has ever been into Vince Maloney when they were there. They're under the Sheraton Hotel opposite Hyde Park. And when you went in there, the owner of the store had his suit pants, beautifully dressed, but his suit pants were at least that far above his shoes. And I used to think it looked really quite odd. But when somebody is dressed impeccably all the time, and he's obviously running his own boutique, he's not in a corporate environment, but he deals a lot with corporate men and women. I thought it was quite unique. You could really see quite a lot of his socks. And I queried him one day, I just couldn't help myself. And he said that's how he loves to wear his pants, quite short. And you wouldn't question him. You know, you sort of assume that he knows what he's doing, and that was what his style was. But it drew attention. And at first you thought, oops. And then you looked at the rest of him and you thought, oh no, that's him. But I'm not sure that would be appropriate in a corporate environment. But with the young blades, again, look, things are relaxed so much. And they do love to show a little bit of ankle, even if it's a bit hairy, with no socks. You know, things have changed so much.
I think there's further on that. This is part of the challenge I think we face when we work with men, is that the fashion rules, particularly for men, have changed so much in the last, let's even say 5 years, that and men, we know most men like a recipe or a set of rules. You know, they like to be told, put that with that, with that, do this, do this, do this. So I can imagine you've got a whole bunch of men, great for us, you know, potential clients out there at the moment, totally confused because the rule, and maybe not so much the younger ones, but the ones that are, and not so much the older ones because they're generally more likely just to stick with the traditional. But those ones in the middle, say between 40 and 55, who are in the senior roles and have suddenly found themselves out of touch. They're not the younger guys. They're also maybe carrying a little bit more weight. So the younger guys, of course, are going for the very, very slim fitting, but let's say tight, really, fitting suit pants in particular. Really, you know, emphasizing every detail, the short leg, the no socks, all of that kind of stuff, which, let's be honest, on a 50-year-old man can look somewhat ridiculous. So this is where I think we've got an onus to help guide and direct our clients to incorporate elements of fashion and trends and not look out of date, but also, just like we do with our female clients, not look like they're trying too hard and not look like they're trying to outdo these young guns, because they've got to lift it to another level and find another way of still being contemporary, but not looking, not becoming a laughing stock.
Totally agree. It can get a little bit tricky for the guy that wants to still look like he's got it all together and is just as, effective in his middle years and as he was, when he was younger. A tapered cut on a man with a little bit of weight on is far more attractive than the straight leg. It just makes him look a little bit slimmer, and they love the advice. They're wearing the big jogging shoes with jeans. Now, I know that's my pet hate. I love jeans, especially smart jeans with either boat shoes or a really nice sandal or sneakers. But those big, ugly, I hate the thing.
We've got Seinfeld to blame for that. That's the Seinfeld look. The jeans with the belt, the shirt tucked in, and the white joggers.
Oh, it's just,
No.
and that's one of the things I'm thinking, look, you know, walk the dog, go for your jog, but get the damn things off as quickly as you can when you get home. I don't know if they're still using them. I think they are, but they might be built in. And they're collar stays. I've had men not understand what the collar stays are. They leave them in when they shove their shirt in the washing machine, wondered what these bits of plastic are at the bottom of the machine when they've taken their shirts out, tossed them out not knowing where they came from, and wonder why their shirts are turning up. You can actually buy them. So you can go into a good menswear store and buy some replacement collar stays if they've lost them. We've already mentioned the shirts that give you the muffin top. Yeah, just pulling it out a little bit. Some men love to tuck in their shirts so tight, and worse if the placket is actually a bit off center. But look, this is another pet hate of mine. It's wearing shorts that are too short. Some men still go for them, and it's not the young ones, it's the older ones that seem to forget that those lovely old shorts that are friends they've had for decades are now just simply too short. Short shorts on men. Any comments at all about that, or you just all agree with that one?
100% agree.
I think.
I hate shorts on men because in Europe you can't see it on the street. You can see it on the vacation places, on the riverside, campings. So it's always casual. Oh my God, it's there. And I always want to tell them, darling, a mirror.
Yes.
And I don't understand why the wives don't see it. Why Australian wives?
They probably do see, and it goes one of two ways. They do see and do something about it, or they do see and just don't care, or they do see and they don't want their man to look attractive to some other woman. So,
or they do see and they get told to mind their own business.
Yes, that's right. That's
so,
yeah, all
like
right.
the short shorts on the young guys. I was in Bunnings yesterday, and this one of the guys that worked there, you know, came kind of plowing along. He was walking really fast down, and I kind of did a. His shorts were so short. He was good looking, young guy, you know, the hipster hair and the beard and the, you know, great physique and everything. But these shorts were like, oh my God.
almost leaves nothing to the imagination. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no. Not a
I think
good.
that's a trend, Evelyn, now between the men, the younger one, maybe late 20s, in mid 20s to early 30s, especially when they go to the gym and they build that muscles. So that they want to show the muscles and they're just thinking it's attractive. Or maybe it's attractive for a teenager girl like mine. I've gone, oh, that's so sexy. But not for a man over 30 or the man or boy, they don't go to the gym and they got a skinny leg.
Yeah, exactly. What else?
What is strange for me that guys dress the same for the city walks, city inside, and to go to the beach. So there is no respect for showing by dressing. So it was always like that, or it's just my being old?
I think context is a really important thing, and it's back to the message you want to send. If you're oblivious to any message you want to send, then, you know, it's hit and miss thing.
And you said respect, because my dad was French. So, and my mum, for those that don't know, my mum died when I was 5, and my dad brought up 3 girls, and he was French. So he taught us how to dress from a very young age. You know, we always wore berets and pleated skirts and, you know, all that sort of stuff. And I could never explain to people what was different between the way that I was brought up, just knowing all of this stuff, and the way that my girlfriends were all brought up. And then I read this book. It was written by an Australian woman who was a journalist and was based in France. And she ended up living in Paris with her beau, and it was the clashing of the two cultures. So the Australian living in Paris, and then when they came back here, the French man living in Sydney, and the clashing of the cultures. And in her living in Paris, she told this story that this one particular day, she got up, threw her tracksuit on, ran down the street to the patisserie to get the croissants, to surprise him with croissants for breakfast. Anyway, he comes out all perfectly dressed and all the rest of it, and they had this almighty blue because he was so upset with her for going down the street like that. And she was like, what do you mean? I went, I got the croissants, I got out of bed, you know, blah, 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 blah. And he had to explain to her that in France, it is a sign of respect. You dress for the people that have to look at you every day. So it's a respect thing. You're dressing for who is going to look at you, and you do the best that you can do for those people. So it was a sign of disrespect to the baker that she had dressed like that to go and get the croissants. That's exactly how I was brought up, that you dress for other people, you don't dress for yourself. Whereas in Australia, I think we dress for comfort and what I feel like wearing, what makes me feel, what I feel like doing today, not as respect.
I love that story. It's one of my favourite stories, and I use it with clients. I'll have to look it up. But
it's a very funny book.
It is. And that particular thing where he says to her, and she says, but what does it matter? And he says, but it's not nice for the baker. And I think that is so true. It's something that, having moved from Sydney to the Central Coast, I came up against again and again and again. And in the early days, I used to come home from the shops and be almost in tears. I'd say to Ian, what's wrong with these people? This complete and utter lack of respect for other people and what other people have to see, and the way you put yourself and lack of self-respect, the way you put yourself together to leave the house. Even if you are going to the shopping centre, I think it saddens me that, and it is a very Australian thing, I think, that, and possibly American, that it's that level, that care factor. You know, they're not caring for themselves or for that respect for other people.
Suzanne, I relate very much to what you're saying because my parents are Belgian. And my mother dressed immaculate, and she used to always say, definitely, you dress out of respect for others in how they see you, as well as, and she used to always say, you dress modern but modest as well. So that was a key thing too, as we brought up. And we were 5 girls and 1 boy. That's the dress sense I grew up with.
People say to me, well, why should it matter? You know, I'm dressing for myself. I will often ask them, have you ever been to a wedding? And, oh, yeah, we've been to several weddings. Well, do you take care with, or you give some thought about how you're going to turn up to that wedding? And, oh, yes, we dress in something nice. Yeah, I put on my suit, or I put on my cocktail dress. I said, why would you bother? This is a situation, but you're taking time to dress for that, and yet you're not taking the time to dress appropriately. And this will be in a work context, this one, for your work business. And that is supporting the whole of your life. That's the thing that's bringing in the money for you to live anyway. And you're paying less attention to that style of dressing and what that will attract for you than going to a wedding of a friend. And yet you've paid them attention and you've paid them respect to turn up properly. Why not at work? But wouldn't it be great if these people had 2 photos taken, one the way they normally turn up and one where they've been totally made over? Give them the before and after, because that could make a difference, especially if they're shown just how easy it is to do it. for themselves.
I think too, Em, it goes back to the very beginning, what we were saying about what's that message that you're sending out. So if you're walking around scruffy and there's a lack of self-awareness, a lack of self-care.
I also wonder, though, whether there's a large element of context. So I think when you going back to Alona's point about dressing for the beach versus the city and that sort of thing, and people not understanding that difference around context. So, for example, when you come to somewhere where I now live, it is very beachy. Ian and I joke that our local shopping centre has a policy of no shirt, no shoes, come on in. It's something you see regularly. And it took me a while to get used to that. But it's so like a country town, and I laugh sometimes because I love the fact that you do it. When I see, Suzanne, your pictures, not so much now because we can't travel, when you go away and you travel and you've got your beautiful self and you're in some, country town, and I'm sure the locals just must be going, what the? That contextual thing. So I think when you there's a difference between making a deliberate and conscious statement and not giving a rat's ass, to be somewhat polite. And I think that it is incumbent on the individual to have a care factor and a level of respect.
Yeah.
Alona just put in the chat, if you don't respect yourself to dress properly, why do you expect other people to respect you?
And take you seriously. So I use in my session around personal branding, when I'm talking to people about style and image and projection and message and personal brand and the messages you're sending, I actually have a photo of me on a slide. So I use a photo of me, and I deliberately took this when I first woke up in the morning. So my hair's all over the place. There's no makeup. I've just got like a hoodie sweatshirt sort of thing on, no nails done, and kind of unfriendly looking face. And I deliberately took this and I flashed that photo up, and I put a little caption beside it that says, this woman is an image consultant. How would you feel about paying her for advice? And they all kind of go, oh. And then I put a slide up of, properly dressed, et cetera, to make the point about it's the message. You can really craft or stuff up your message intentionally or unintentionally. And if you're trying to, give people advice or charge for your services, or you're running a small business, or you're a high-level CEO, you want to make sure that message matches what you're trying to sell.
Absolutely.
And that consistency of that message.
Any other pet hates that you see men doing that are just totally unaware?
I should tell something, Evelyn, about my husband. So when I met him, it was so bad when Jeremy bent over and I can see his bum crack. And it was an issue, well, still a little bit, that I was trying to just like, why? I couldn't understand why undies is not coming up, or he would just like, excuse was, I don't have a proper bum today. Undies to stay up. But I found that he's not comfortable to put it up. And it was almost so bad that embarrassing for me that every time he wants to bend. And I was trying to just like be So I think this is an issue I saw at different places, that men don't care about that. So that's how they can wear their undies or put their proper belt or put their jeans up or trousers up to understand, because they can't see themselves. It's when they're bending, it's how embarrassing, and they don't care about it.
A photo would prove a lot.
I did.
Oh, you did? Right.
Yes. Yeah.
Did it help?
A little bit. And one day, Regina put the coin on back of...
Nowadays, they use the cheap supermarket perfumes, the young ones, and the whole cloud around them. Smell, that's another thing.
It's a pet hate that I've got, and square-toed shoes. And yet you still see some guys walking around with their favourite shoes on because they're comfortable, and they've turned into boats now, but they're still polishing them up and still wearing them. And square-toed shoes make your feet look bigger, fatter. They're most unattractive. Well, we could go on, I think. I'm sure we could. But I love the bumper. I was only following a guy, what was it, the weekend, my young step-grandson's first birthday. It was wonderful. We had it in the park. And I was just coming back from the car bringing some balloons back, and I was following a guy down the path to where we were going to have the party in the little bandstand. And this guy, he's honest, he had underpants that came to his waist, but his jeans were almost off, and I was seeing more underpants than I was. There was about that much jean covering the bottom part of his posterior, and I thought, how is and he had to reach for his wallet, and instead of just reaching in his back pocket, he had to go like this to reach for his wallet out of his back pocket. That's how low the pants were. I felt like saying, excuse me, you're going to lose your pants if you don't pull them up. The belt was either too loose or the weight.
How old was he?
Oh, about 25, 26.
Yeah. That was a fashion.
But
it's a fashion statement.
Yeah.
Fashion statement, and the underpants were so disgusting. They were beigey.
They want the underpants. They want the pants halfway down the bottom, so you see the under. It's a whole fashion statement.
That's right.
Yeah. But if they knew the story behind wearing their, I don't know if I should relate that story. Do you know where it comes from? Anyone?
No.
American jails?
Comes from the jails. The jail system.
Oh, wow.
And the guys that decided they were going to be the girls would indicate that by wearing their pants way down on their backsides. And they were the girls in the jail. Wow. Okay, so that was a message. Now, that somehow came out into mainstream. But I think most of the guys did wear their pants down, whether it was just an attitude thing or what's fashion now. But if they knew the story behind it, they might have changed their minds. Because it was an invitation. Oh, well, look, there's a whole ton of other things we could have talked about. It's just been lovely having you here this morning. I hope that this has been useful. I know that we were all on the same page with all this information. It's still good to have a chat about, though. And perhaps some of you picked up some things. I know I have too. So
same here.
Anything else can you think of? I'm thinking of the break on pants. And there are breaks and there are breaks. Now, who do you think can actually have a double break on their pants? We'll
Thank you.
Same time next week.
Thank you so much, Evelyn. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.